First up, we have Agenbite Misery with Remorse of Conscience. This left-of-center debut comes in the form of this New Hampshire band, a mix of atmospheric black metal, sludgy doom metal, and avant-garde twists, and turns that will make you turn your head. The production on this one is raw, but not unlistenable, as everything does come through the mix. The songwriting explores so much in sound, reminding me of a very sludgy side of the band Primitive Man, the blackened side of the Minnesota band Suffering Hour, and moments of Blutas Nord and Imperial Triumphant. If you like your music to take on adventures that you just don't see coming, you will find it within the debut album from Agenbite Misery. Up next is All the Damn Vampires with Vicecore. I'm a bit torn on covering this one, as 5 of the 12 tracks are covers, so it's very close to being a reimagined covers album, but the magic of the music is so good that I don't want to skip this one. The debut album from Davey Oberlin fuses dark synthwave, alternative metal, AOR, and a cinematic landscape to create an album that feels like an 80s album made with a haunting sense of 2026. Imagine if someone made an episode of Miami Vice that's based on the Lost Boys, or the band Magic Dance taking a more modern metal influence, and you have Vicecore. The original tracks have a nostalgic flair, while the covers from artists like Phil Collins, Whitesnake, Cutting Crew, Benny Bardonas, and Martika have the influence on point, but are updated just enough to make them a little bit darker than the original intent. Overall, this is an album that hits hard, especially on the throwbacks, but it's just sinister enough to feel like a soundtrack to a movie that hasn't been made yet, which would be really cool to see made one day. If you want a modern throwback, give All the Damn Vampires a shot. You just might enjoy the trip as well. Next up, we have Induction with Love Kills. The third album from this fantastic band may be their best album to date. They have always found a way to be more than your typical catchy band, while still hitting you with some of the catchiest hooks, melodies, and choruses possible. With the latest release, the band continues to push what is possible in a symphonic, AOR, melodic metal sound in a power metal band, and that feels so at home with bands like Latter Day Edguy, as it would Gamma Ray, as it would Sonata Arctica. It just hits all the right elements that you love, making you close your eyes, nod your head, and making you happy that you're listening to this kind of music. The production is right where it needs to be, and the songwriting, as stated, is as catchy as possible while still hitting everything that you'd want in this sound. This may not be the most groundbreaking power metal album ever made, but in 2026, it's an album that will remind you why you love this side of melodic power metal so much, and it will give you infinite replayability. We need more of that in 2026. Up next, we have L'Amour with Sabok Rogue. This may be the first album that I've ever come across that comes out of Reunion Island, and that is so cool for me to be able to do to keep discovering music out of new territories. The sophomore album from this thrash band is the kind of thrash that makes you a fan of the style to begin with, sounding like a mix of Slayer, Early Day Testament, and especially Creator. This hits that 80s itch of sound, but updated for 2026, so it has incredible production style and just enough fluff cut out for maximum impact. This is 11 tracks and almost 45.5 minutes of what makes thrash exciting after all these decades. Whether it's all guns blazing or slowed down enough to have some variety, this is a band that knows how to write a song and have it stuck in your head. Thrash fans, old and new, need to check this one out. Now we have Mayhem with Liturgy of Death. With a legacy as this Norwegian band has had over the past 40 years and counting, it's hard to believe that they only have 7 albums deep into their career. Even more so, the fact that no 2 albums sound alike despite always sounding like Mayhem. With the latest album, the band explores more of what is possible with their sound, while still having that signature black metal sound. They're experimenting more with clean vocals, off-kilter songwriting, and of course feeling like evil is pouring right out of your speakers. While the band will never be everyone's cup of tea, it is a welcoming thing to see that the band is still pushing their songwriting ability and not resting on their laurels. It's a hellacious 8-track, nearly 46-minute ritual that is rewarding if you give it a full spin, proving that they're not just a legacy band, as they know what to do to still be here to this day. And finally, for brand new albums of today, we have Paganizer with As Mankind Rots. Sweden's Paganizer's 14th album is layered in old school Swedish death metal that simply works since the late 80s, and it never lets up in momentum. It hits hard, the riffs are crushing, including the song Devoured, which kinda sounds like a song from one of my old bands that never got put out. To me, that is a cool thing to see, and it just feels so right. They've always had that entombed, grave, dismember sound, and that's why I keep going back to them for this sound. Arguably my favorite kind of straight up death metal shines with a style that is all substance and just the slightest amount of flair. Mix that in with the classic production style and I'm sold. If you need your fix of Swedish OSDM, you need to hear the latest from Paganizer. And now it's time for everything that I missed along the way, starting with a band name that I deeply apologize for getting wrong, as I know I'm gonna hit it wrong. Aftoktonia, with Through the Nebulae of Empyrean Aether. The third album in 4 months from this already prolific Norwegian one-man band is a magnificently made black metal that burns the soul. And no, this is not AI. There are flares of mystical moments that remind me of bands like Labyrinthus Stellarum, while still hitting that second and third wave black metal edge, while hinting so closely to DSBM. Every release so far is 4 songs a piece, or 1 song separated into 4 movements, and this is no exception. It's a long trip at 52.5 minutes between 4 tracks, but if you enjoy a soundscape of hellish proportions, this is more than worthy of the experience. It's cold, dark, barren, and oddly soothing all at once. If you don't like long-form black metal, this will not be for you, but for everyone else, this should be a mandatory listen. Now we have Every King Has a Clown with their self-titled debut. The debut album from this one-man US band is filled to the brim with too many guest performers to mention in a block like this, but still feels like the band has been around for decades, hitting so much of what there is to love about the 80s through the 2000s heavy metal sound, sometimes getting a little proggy, sometimes getting more power metal, sometimes getting a little doomy, and sometimes just straight up metal. It has a little bit of everything and none of the fluff. The production feels right where it should be, and no matter the genre shift, it feels like a chameleon, hitting everything that the styles call for, and it feels so satisfying to hear. If you want to hear a loving tribute to bands of the classic genres of metal, check out what this project has to offer. Next up is Exil with Karga. The debut album from this French outfit is striking a chord with me in a way that feels indescribable in its accuracy. While I do not know the lyrical content on this one for not being able to read or speak French, the melodies, harmonies, and screams are hitting me so hard and not letting up. I can hear elements of Emisseurs in the style of post-punk and post-black, while added elements of Amenra on the darker side, Unrequited for the emotional side, and Ghostbath for the more consistent vocals. This is an 8-track, almost 36.5-minute assault to the senses that will leave you feeling cathartic and longing for better times. This is exactly what a good post-black album should bring to the table. It's hard to believe that this is just a debut, as some bands of this style wish they could hit this much power in their 4th, 5th, or even 6th album. It'll leave you an emotional wreck, but that is mandatory for any post-black fan. Now we have Fireborn with Dreamcatcher. The sophomore album from this German band feels like the perfect combination of new and old, formed to create something for every generation of rock and metal fan. Every song, no matter the tempo, feels like it was tailor-made to show off the best of the genres that they have to offer, while still sounding as catchy and full of earworms as possible. Whether you're looking for Rainbow, Dokken, Doro, or even Alter Bridge, you will find something that grabs your attention and not let go. The production hits so hard and it doesn't let up in its momentum. Sometimes you just want to straight up hard rock and heavy metal album, and in 2026 so far, you're not going to find a better example than that with Dreamcatcher by Fireborn. Next up is Queen Kona with Long Live. The 4th album from this New York City band is the kind of progressive metalcore that grabs my attention. While it does have some gent moments, it doesn't rely on it, in favor of more of the mid to late 2000s metalcore sound that is more than just fretboard Olympics and wanking. There's real songwriting going on here, mixed in with vocal variety and a thick atmosphere throughout the entire album. It feels like a mix of After the Burial, Bury Your Dead, and Unearth, and for someone who grew up in bands like that in my pivotal teen years, that's a cool thing to see. Mix that in with a brutal yet clear production style, and you have an album that between all 10 tracks and almost 39 minutes is filled to the brim with peak performances and songs that hit so hard on record, but I'm sure will hit even harder live. Give this one a proper listen if this is your bag. You just might be won over as well. And finally today we have Sidious with Malefic Necropolis. While originally having more of a symphonic black metal sound, and some of that is still here even if it's not prominent, the 4th album from this UK band feels sinister in its triumphant black metal sound, with an exceptional production style that you just don't often hear in this style, and a songwriting that feels like it was crafted to perfection. This is one of the best black metal albums that we're gonna get in 2026. It's everything that you'd expect from the genre, but just done better. This is what the 2nd and 3rd wave black metal bands wish that they could have been able to do with their production. 9 songs, 35.5 minutes of pure, unadulterated nihilism. First up, we have Ashbringer with Subglacial. The fifth album from this Minnesota band, and actually they're just one town over from me, is the band expanding upon their blend of false black metal. The band has always been known for pushing the boundaries of progressive, post, folk, black gaze, and so much more into their black metal sound, and I've loved it ever since day one. With Subglacial, it feels like the band is going back into harsher sounds that they started with in the beginning, but not losing anything that they've learned along the way. The production will either be hit or miss for you, as it is quite raw, but every instrument is clear and the songwriting is worth your attention. It feels like it brings together everything that I love about bands like Aglock, Emiensis, Together to the Stars, and Panopticon into one place, but done with a southern Twin Cities metro charm. I can't say it enough, Minnesota has a phenomenal black metal scene here, and Ashbringer, while exploring so much more than its core sound, is an excellent example of it. I dare say this is their best album to date. Check it out for yourself. Next up is Bloodred with Colors of Pain. The fourth album from this German blackened death metal band is a visceral display of blending the genres and creating a dark and realistic look at life. Just from the album title alone, you can tell that this is a personal album that hits the pain of the current world while dealing with it on an individual level. The music more than matches up to it, and no two songs sound alike, and they all feel like they're exploring something just a little bit different while staying connected. All 8 tracks and 43 minutes of this album hits on so many levels, and if you like your black and death metal on the more melodeath and Viking metal and early day Amon Amarth side, Bloodred is for you. Now we have Defaced with Icon. The Swiss death metal band is back with their third album, and it hits extremely hard. It's that fantastic combination of hard-hitting 90s death metal sounds mixed in with 90s melodeath, feeling like a combination of Morbid Angel, Middle Era At the Gates, and even a newer band like Abysmal Dawn. No track truly lets up on this one, and it's filled to the brim with intensity, even when there's less instrumentation and lesser tempo. Simply put, this is 10 tracks of what makes death metal work to this day. Sometimes you can't sell a death metal album better than that. Next up is Eye of Purgatory with Darkborne. Edge of Sanity is Reborn? Not quite, but it is very, very close. The third album from the Swedish trio is everything you know and love about 90s progressive death metal, from the songwriting to the production to the tones being produced. This is also the second album as a full band with Jeremy Kling and Taylor Nordberg, who have worked together in so many bands, filling out the rhythm section. This is another album that I don't need to sell you on too hard. If you love Opeth, Early Day In Flames, and especially Edge of Sanity, you need Eye of Purgatory. Now we have Greyhawk with Warriors of Greyhawk. The third album from the Seattle outfit is that classic metal, power metal, and epic metal styles personified. 11 tracks and almost 50 minutes of the nostalgic sound in a revival metal package, paying tribute to the legends of Judas Priest, Dio, and Hammerfall, all while falling in line with bands like Visigoth, Sumerlands, and Eternal Champion. While nothing here is reinventing the wheel, it doesn't need to. It just needs to be undeniably solid, and Greyhawk may be the shining example of how that's done in 2026. This is sure to make any revival metal fan smile from ear to ear, and it'll only take one listen to understand why. Now we have Hoaxed with Death Knocks. The sophomore album from this Portland trio is such a killer album, combining that dark and occult rock sound mixed in with hard rock and classic heavy metal to make for an album that can hit you on so many angles, but all of them feel right. Mixing a sound that reminds me of Ancient Wisdom, meets Unto Others, meets Tribulation, meets Blood Ceremony. While the debut album is great, I love the direction of the band is going in now, and I hope they continue to explore it further. If you want to hear your hard rock and metal on the dark side and captivating, Hoaxed is a band that you need to recognize now. You'll be so glad that you did. Next up is Melfic with Impermanence. The debut album from this Atlanta blackened death thrash band is an incredible experience that hits on all the right elements for this style, blending black metal, thrash metal, death metal, and an out-of-this-world melodies and harmonies that tie everything together. Between the clear and punchy production style and the songwriting that feels endlessly inspired, this feels like a band that mixes the Black Dahlia Murder, Carcass, Old Man's Child, and we kinda need that right now. Making for an album this strong at 9 tracks in under 40 minutes is such a cool thing to see too, because they give you everything that they have and it'll still leave you wanting more. You don't often find a band like this on their debut album with this quality. Check out Melfic and what they're all about. Now we have a band and an album title that I'm gonna deeply apologize for getting wrong. Ponte del Diavolo with Di Vemen Natura. Talk about a captivating album. The sophomore album from this Italian band more than lives up to the album title. This feels venomous in a way that strikes between its darkest black metal, its catchiest post-punk, and gothic overtones, and the occasional doom that roars at you as you lie on the ground from the impact. It's such an odd combination on paper, but when you hear it executed, it makes all the sense in the world. The production is human, but it still sounds crisp and clear, and the songwriting is impeccable and inspired in ways that'll take you by surprise on the first listen. Imagine a mix of the latest album from Mesa, but adding moments of Latter-day Rotting Christ and Sisters of Mercy. That initial hit may shock you, but once you pay attention to everything that's going on, you'll keep wanting more. This is how you make music inspired in 2026. Next up is Slaughter Day with Dread Emperor. This is how old school death metal is at its most primal. The fifth album in 15 years from this German duo knocks the classic sound of that late 80s, early 90s death metal out of the park. From the authentic production style to the music, mixing it up between the pit-inducing riffs and the near-death doom elements to the classic sounds that remind you so much of Obituary, Autopsy, Grave, and Entombed. 10 songs, almost 40 minutes, and not a second wasted. This is how that classic straight-up old-school death metal is meant to be played. Here we have Space of Variations with Poisoned Art. When I interviewed this Ukrainian band back for their previous album, the world was in a very dark place, and 4 years later, it's only gotten worse. Somehow this band has gotten heavier and catchier at the same time. For every moment of modern clarity in the music, or a throwback to that 80s and 90s music aesthetic, they will come up with a breakdown or a monstrous riff that makes the band balance the melody and the disharmony of life in every song. You will hear moments that remind you of modern bands such as I Prevail and Elwood Stray, but you'll also hear moments that remind you of early day Killswitch Engage, just like it hit me 20 years ago. Well, I guarantee this will not be for everybody who normally checks out my lists. If you have an open mind when it comes to more mainstream genres, this is a band that is more than worthy of your attention. They are pushing the envelope in ways that need to be pushed, and it's going to pay dividends in the long run. They keep getting bigger and better on every release, and they deserve to do so. Now we have Temple Balls with their self-titled album. Just to get it out of the way, Temple Balls is a name that's always gonna make me laugh no matter how many times I hear it. Now that we're past that, the fifth album in 9 years from this Finnish band is one of the reasons why I keep going back down the well of melodic rock, melodic metal, AOR, etc. Every time that you think the genre is getting stale or needs a change, a band like Temple Balls comes out and reminds you why you love the genre in the first place. Every song is endlessly catchy, and somehow it never sounds the same. This is also sadly the last appearance of Nico, who sadly passed away a few months ago from cancer, and this is an excellent send-off to his guitar work and his songwriting, and I truly hope the band will be able to keep going forward and become even stronger in the face of tragedy. But to put it simply, if you want a fun and thrilling look at one of the best genres of rock and metal, you need to check out Temple Balls. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have Worm with Necropalace. Right off the bat, Marty Friedman does a guest appearance on the track Witch Moon the Endless Masquerade, and I never thought I would say that he would be a part of a blackened death doom album, but as you would expect, he nails it in every conceivable way. The fourth album from this North American band is everything that 90s extreme metal is all about. From the super raw production to the clear and audible style of that, to the songwriting, whether it is 14 minutes at its longest or 7 at its shortest, it's all of the blackened, death, doom, and experimental moments that are simply legendary. You hear everything from Black Braid to Hood and Menace to Emperor to Cradle of Filth here, and it's still not as random and as quirky as the album gets. I mean, just check out the album cover. I mean, come on. This is the kind of album that is either a grandiose masterpiece or a complete hodgepodge of sound depending on your ears. I am of the former, and I can't get enough of it. Let Worm slither into you. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting with Before I Turn with Immoral and Malevolent Happenings. 5 albums into this New England band's career, and they've made one of the most haunting and horror-infused metalcore albums I've ever heard. It's dripping in atmosphere, punishing in its riffs and breakdowns, and just the right amount of cleans to make the music feel even more tragic. This is the kind of album that feels like a film score when you close your eyes, and it fills you with dread with every passing second. You don't often get a kind of band like this with a theme where the music has the sense of a band's like Currents, The Contortionist, Periphery, Shadow of Intent, and the horror soundtracks of Danny Elfman. I can't guarantee everyone will like this, but if the idea of this intrigues you even in the slightest, you need to see what this band is all about and what they will surely come to be in the future. Who knew that saving progressive metalcore and deathcore styles would simply be honing in on the true horror that it can represent? Now we have Crystal Sun with The Trace You Left, the first and final album featuring Ale Mose, who started off the project as a studio project, became a tribute to him, with everyone who joined the band guesting on the album, and his legacy with the money for the album going towards cancer research. How can you not be in favor of that? The music is layered in death metal, but there's so many moments of thrash, melodeath, new wave of British heavy metal, and more that makes it so much more than just a simple death metal album. With so many guest appearances, I can't list them all off here in a short little review like this. It helps make this album even more varied and even more of a thrill ride from beginning to end. This is an incredible tribute to the legacy of Ale Mose left on his peers, and it shows what he was capable of in the scene that he was a part of, all while showing off the rest of the world what he was capable of until his final recorded moments. Will this be the only album from Crystal Sun? I hope not, as I hope that they continue on, as it would be cool to see where else this project can go from here, while still praising its creator. But even if this is it, this is an album that won't easily be forgotten, and it is sure to leave a lasting impression on you, and I really hope we will find the end of cancer one day. Next up is Evoked Eclipse with The Cries of Evil. The debut album from this Italian one-man band is some of the most haunting and devastating music of this style I have ever heard. For every moment that goes into the more extreme end of things, it's balanced out with a gothic overtone that rips you apart emotionally and doesn't let up. It feels like when you take a mix of Dissection and Naglfar, and you mix it with equal parts Swallow the Sun and Early Day Catatonia. Intentional or not, with the week that I've had, this album brings tears to my eyes in a cathartic way that I truly needed. Put all that together with a production style that feels like any 2000s masterpiece of this style, and the songwriting that truly feels from the heart, and you have an album that will bring as much enjoyment as it does devastation. All of that in only 8 tracks and 33 minutes is no easy thing to achieve. Give this one a proper listen and prepare to be floored. Here we have Ivory Moon with The Silent Ruins of Mars. The 5th album in 22 years from this Italian band hits the perfect elements of epic symphonic metal, and it makes for such a heavy, catchy, and triumphant music. Mixing the symphonics of Nightwish, the power of Living Tales, and the technical ability of Pyrames is such a cool thing to experience. It's a bit of a lengthy album, coming in at 13 tracks and a little over 55 minutes, but if this is your bag, the album does fly by and warrants instant replays. The production style in this one hits so hard, and the songwriting feels like it's done to the best of their ability, and leaving very little fluff in the process. If you want to hear the past, present, and future of what epic symphonic metal is in 2026, check out Ivory Moon and what they bring to the table. Next up is Carnival with Inverses. I did not imagine Carnival coming back, especially after 13 years in between albums, but the Australian band has made their 4th album more than a worthy comeback. The band has helped shape what alternative progressive metal can be, and influenced countless bands in the prog world, and they are as strong as ever, showing that there is so much left in the machine. While the incredible production style lets you hear every single note and gives every single note purpose in their songwriting, the band has taken the past nearly decade and a half and are playing to their strengths, giving us surprises that are more than worthy of the trip. If you're new to the band but you want to hear how bands like Tesseract, Caligula's Horse, Vola, and Elo get their inspiration, check out Carnival and see how alternative progressive metal still leaves a huge impact in 2026. Next up is Meteora with Darkest Light. The 5th album in 9 years from this Hungarian symphonic metal band is easily the band's best work to date, feeling like an even stronger version of bands like Epica and Mayan, and giving nods to bands like Agent Settlers, Neopera, and more. Meteora takes what works best in this style of symphonic metal and gives you everything from the heaviest to the most extreme to the most majestic and beautiful moments that you can hear in the genre. This is another longer release at 13 songs and 63 minutes of music, which I know will turn off some, but I have zero problem with it. Every second recorded here fills with purpose, and it fills you with wonder. Meteora should be heralded from the rooftops, and I hope one day they will be considered one of the best of the genre, like Epica. But until then, they are that band that deserves your attention, and to help get them to that level. Now we got Night of the Vampire with the enchanting winds of the Dream-Weaving Masquerade. The debut album from this Texas outfit is a combination of music I didn't know I needed until I heard it. Mixing black metal, post-punk, and 80s synthwave feels like an unholy combination. Given the name and the subject matter, that's actually correct, but it works miraculously in execution. Feeling like middle-era Tribulation, Bathory, and Joy Division feels so wrong that it has to be right. The production is quite raw, but it adds to the vampiric nature of the music, not just a pun intended. And at 9 tracks and almost 34 minutes, this feels like the perfect example of what a debut album can offer you. And when it comes time to take that second bite, I think you'll be entranced. This is such a killer release, and I can't wait to see what comes next from this band known as Night of the Vampires. And finally today we have Tail Gunner with Midnight Blitz. The sophomore album from this UK band takes the best elements of their debut album and doubles down on what worked best while adding new flavors and experiences into the music. Of course, the most hyped thing about this album is that KK Downing produced the album, but I would have been excited for this one even without his name attached. When I reviewed Guns for Hire back in 2023, I knew I was hearing something special in that revival metal sound. The band is showing what they're truly capable of here, and it is some of the best revival metal that you're going to hear in 2026. If you love Judas Priest, Primal Fear, Enforcer, and Iron Maiden, Tail Gunner is raising the flag high. They are more than worthy of your attention. Give them the love that they deserve. First up, we have Abstracted with Hiraeth. The sophomore album from this Brazilian band is quite the progressive experience. While you can hear so much from bands like Meshuggah and Textures, you can also hear bands like Between the Buried and Me, Opeth, and Scar Symmetry. The band has leveled up on this release and only getting stronger and showcasing the best songwriting and musicianship to date that they have done. The production is a bit on the raw side for today's age, but it also makes it feel more human at the same time. For anyone who wants that mid-2000s progressive death metal sound, Abstracted is bringing that with a 2026 flair, and it truly shines. Next up, we have Aeon Gods with Reborn to Light. The sophomore album from this German band brings back the greatness that is symphonic power metal. Depending on who you ask, everyone has their different kind of symphonic power metal that they love. From the all guns blazing speed, to the crushing riffs, to the crowd chanting choruses, to the theatrical symphonics that takes the emphasis. Aeon Gods ask, why not do all of that and more? This is the perfect crash course of the genre while still putting their own signature onto the sound. Add a crystal clear production to the mix, and you have one of the best symphonic power metal albums of the year. It will take so much to try and top this one. If you want your kick of Powerwolf, Hammer King, and Battleborn, check out Aeon Gods in all their glory. Now we have AmongRuins with Advent of Chaos, and make sure to check out my written review with AmongRuins up on heavydebriefings.weebly.com. I discovered this band with their previous album Land of the Black Sun back in 2023, and in such a short time the band has found a way to improve even stronger and has recorded what might be one of the best melodeath albums of 2026. The music is equal parts heavy and melodic, knowing when to switch things up without going too far into either direction, mixing with a production style that simply fits the music and the lyrical sense that feels so appropriate for 2026, and you have one killer release. If you enjoy the likes of Night Rage, Primal Frost, Wolfheart, and Go Dark, you need AmongRuins in your life. Next up is Bizarrekult with an album title that I hope I get right, Alt Som Finis. This is the post-black album that I've been waiting for this year. It hits everything that I love about the genre on the darkest ends, and it does not let up for 8 tracks and almost 43 minutes. The production on this one is stellar for the genre, and the songwriting hits everything from depressing to tear-jerking in the best of ways. The Siberian-turned-Norwegian band's third album is an absolute triumph of how the post-black genre works. For anyone who enjoys latter-day Enslaved, Do Heimskard, and Durkvig einer Freiheit, check out Bizarrekult immediately. You do not want to miss this one. Next up is Daidalos with Dante. The sophomore album from this German one-man band is one of the most punishing symphonic black metal albums I've ever heard. It simply hits all the right elements that makes everything work, from the sinister overtones, to the symphonics, to the aggression of the black metal side, to sharing nods to bands like Dimmu Borgir, Flesh God Apocalypse, Karak Engren, and Septic Flesh, but having their own sound in the process. The production is brilliant and lets you feel every single note to its full capacity, and the songwriting is the kind that is inspired and doesn't leave an ounce of redundancy. The lyrical concept of the album is a reinterpretation of the Divine Comedy by Dante, but it's through Dante's eyes, and the power of the themes more than matches up the music and vice versa. Simply put, this is the symphonic black metal album that we needed in 2026, and the genre is back with a full bang. I can't sing the praises of this one enough. Go check this one out. Now we have Sylosis with the New Flesh. Sylosis is an ever-evolving band, and with their 7th album in 18 years, the band captures the best of their technical ability, matched with making riffs that are so catchy and memorable. It's a fine line between trying to capture both sides without it sounding like a hodgepodge of sound, but the band balances everything out, knowing when to be more mainstream and when to be more brutal. This is much more than clean vocals on this one, but I don't find that that's a bad thing. It works for the music, and it makes everything catchier than ever before. The production is crystal clear and lets everybody shine, hitting moments that'll remind you of bands like Orbit Culture, Darkest Hour, The Haunted, and a simpler, more refined Ex Mortis. Sylosis is a band that feels like it can be for everyone if you give them a proper spin. Now we have Transatlantic Radio with Midnight Transmission. It's really hard for me to find an AOR album of the modern day that I don't like, because every band that does it now is only doing it for the pure love of the music. This brand new supergroup is no exception. It hits everything that you love about the genre, from its cheesiest moments to the flying solos to the pure 80s aesthetic. But again, it's done with a pure love of the genre that is undeniable and feels truly authentic. If you're looking for everything from Y&T, Danger Danger, Giant, or even Foreigner, you will find it here and more with Transatlantic Radio. Just put it on and smile. We need that more than ever before. Now we have Rectify with Dissecting the Leech. 6 albums in this Canadian thrash band's career, and it feels more important than ever to have them around. Just from the lyrical content alone, the band is showing the atrocities that happen in life, and we really need a light shone on that right now. Match that up with thrash metal that feels equal parts Creator, Nevermore, Strapping Lad, and Annihilator, and you have an album that is satisfying to the ears to listen to time and time again. I will say that I know the production will not be for everyone, but if you hit the particular niche that this band hits, you will understand it and you will love it. It also helps that the likes of Steve Smith, Chris Poland, Stu Block, and more add their touches to the music and make it even better. 10 songs, almost 50 minutes of devastating thrash. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have Zepter with their self-titled debut. Equal parts Thin Lizzy, Angel Witch, and Night Demon comes a debut album from Austria's Zepter. It somehow captures the mid-70s sound, the new wave of British heavy metal sound, and the current revival metal sound all rolled into one. While not coming close to reinventing the wheel, that's nowhere near the intent here. This is beyond solid, and it takes that classic hard rock, classic metal, and speed metal sounds, and creates a fusion that makes you remember why this sound is still prevalent to this day. The production feels like 1982 done in 2026, and the musicianship is tighter than ever before to make it sound as accurate as it needs to be. This is the revival sound that we need in 2026. And now for everything that I missed, starting with Beheading Samsara with Black Cloud Masses. Sometimes a band will put out a 6-track album that's barely a half hour long, has an In Flames cover at the end, but those first 5 tracks are so ridiculously hard and they leave you stunned every time you listen to it. That's what happened to me when I put on the sophomore album from this Spanish band that has clearly put their thoughts, hearts, and souls into the music they're creating, and it worked triumphantly. I should note that every original song on here from the band is from their very first demo back in 2018, but the songs have been reworked and recorded to work as a full album, and at least according to Metallum, that is the case, so that's why I'm counting it here. This is spectacular work that truly hits that 2026 definition of progressive melodeath. If you want a mix of bands like Persephone, Early Day, In Flames, Opeth, and Rivers of Nile, do yourself a favor and check out Beheading Samsara. I can't wait to see what they do next. Next up is Converge with Love Is Not Enough. I'll keep this one short and sweet, just like the album. 10 tracks, barely 31 minutes long. It is pure Converge through and through. The first half of the album focuses on the more intense elements of the band, and the second half sees the band exploring more of their sound, yet somehow the entire album is consistent and it's done before you realize it. In fact, this is the shortest album the band has ever made. It's a crash course of the band from their earliest sounds to their most left of center moments and everything in between. If you ever wondered how first wave metalcore, mathcore, hardcore punk, and experimental sounds mix together, and you've never heard Converge, let this be your first taste. Next up, we have Nulling Roots with Fourth Dimensional Dreamscape. At long last, after 6 years, comes the 6th album from this Arizona post-black band that has put out some of the best material in the genre. It has been a long and rough time without new music from the band, but was it worth the wait? Absolutely. This is easily some of the band's best work from beginning to end, hitting some of the most optimistic highs and pessimistic lows the band has ever recorded. The music is filled with wonder, hitting so many different emotions and styles all under the gaze of post-black. The production production will not be for everyone as it is quite raw, but I dare say that the musicality on this one is such a high that after a while you won't even notice how raw the music and production is, and it will just fill everything with the right kind of atmosphere. This is also on track of an album, as it's 6 songs in 53 minutes, so if you don't like long songs, this may not be for you. But if you just care about the quality of the songwriting, this is a magnificent and spectacular release in a time where this music truly hits hard. If you like your post-black on the raw but defined side, check out AmongRuins. Now we have Story of the Year with Arson. After coming back stronger than ever with 2023's Tear Me to Pieces, I had no idea what to expect with what will end up being this latest album. Arson feels like the polar opposite experience. It is much heavier in both the music, more screams, and especially the lyrical content. While there is a lot similar to its predecessor, like the fact that they have the same production team, several songs have that emo pop-punk sound to it, this album hits so much more on the raw, modern post-hardcore approach. To put it simply, if Tear Me to Pieces is their Page Avenue, Arson is their In the Wake of Determination. And finally today we have Wolf Chant with Echoes of a Time Once Past. It's been 21 years since the debut album of this German folk metal band, and with every album, they find a new way of being consistent yet never sounding the same. That continues here with their 9th album, filled with some of the best riffs of the band that they have ever created, mixed in with more genre bending and of course the folk elements that can never leave. You have a Wolf Chant that feels so appropriate for the 2020s, yet makes you long for the early 2000s when things were a bit simpler. The production is the right balance of clear and humanized to make everything flow together. And if you love that sound that comes from bands like Equilibrium, Tearfang, Winterforst, and Inseverum, Wolf Chant is required listening. Check this one out. First up, we have Assignment with the End Comes Silence. The long-running German progressive power metal band returns with their 6th album in 23 years. It's been quite the 6 years since their previous album, but the band has taken the time to refine everything that works about the band and hone in on their catchiest elements and create an album that is filled with technical ability, soaring vocals, and gorgeous melodic solos, and it makes the band truly stand out. The production on this one strikes hard, and it has everything that you want to be able to match the quality of the music. If you need your fix of bands like Symphony X, Evermore, Timeless Fairy Tale, and Chaos Frame, Assignment is doing the progressive power metal genre proud. Now we have Black Swan with Paralyzed. 3 albums into the powerhouse of a group with past and present members of Michael Schenker Group, Winger, Foreigner, and Mr. Big is the late 70s through early 90s hard rock and metal personified. The key difference is that pulling off this music in 2026, you have to have a pure love for the music, and that is showcased here throughout all 11 tracks. With a fantastic production style, it lets the songs shine whether they are more heavy riff orientated or a little more subdued. Without question, this is the band's best material to date, and there is no signs of the band slowing down. I'm so thankful for bands like Black Swan that showcase the best elements of their sound, but still find a way to make it relevant and rewarding for the modern day. This is why rock and metal will never die. Next up is Cryptic Shift with Overspace and Supertime. The sophomore album from this UK outfit featuring 3/5 of the band Slime Lord is the kind of 90s progressive death metal meets 2000s tech death that I didn't know I needed until now. Feeling like equal parts atheist, necrophagist, and blood incantation, Cryptic Shift is applying the past and the present into a package that is not for the faint of heart. The production is pure 90s with that unquestionable presence era atheist vibe going on that I will never get sick of hearing. And the songwriting is quite the trek as well. The shortest song is almost 9.5 minutes and the longest song is almost a half hour, so this will not be for everyone, but for those who love their musical journeys, this will be the absolute elsewhere of 2026. Now we have The Gloom in the Corner with Royal Discordance. The 4th album from this Melbourne, Australia band is quite the intriguing mix of sounds that I simply wasn't expecting. This is one of the most bombastic and diverse metalcore albums I've come across in a very long time. It gets as heavy as it does mainstream and catchy, as it does experimental and just plain bonkers, feeling like an unholy mix of Lorna Shore, Latter Day Make Them Suffer, and Sixth. The production is super clean and punchy, which is what you need to make this kind of music have a full effect. While it may sound like a hodgepodge in description, once this one unlocks for you, the music flows together naturally and feels both heavenly beauty and hellish landscapes for your listening pleasure. It won't be for everybody, but if you want to hear what can be truly done to innovate the metalcore sound, this is a band that you need to have on your radar. Now we have Hela with A Reign to Conquer. The fourth album from the Spanish melodic doom band is thought-provoking and captivating. Embracing the dark side of the music even further, the band hits the style of melodic doom that can both sucker you in with its beauty and rip your soul apart with its themes and emotional power. The production is perfect for the style, and the band never feels like it writes the same song twice in its presence. If you want to hear something that channels the likes of Trees of Eternity, Early Day of the Gathering, and Sub Rosa, Hela is a must-listen, especially with their best release, that is, A Reign to Conquer. Now we have Joel Holska's 13 with From the Fade. The fourth solo album from Joel Holska is such a great mix of the classic sounds done in 2026. You can hear as much AOR and classic rock stylings with the approach that would come from a newer side of rock and metal fans that they would appreciate. The lineup for this album is also insane, with Vinny Appice on drums, Derek Sherinian on keys, and so much more. The production is a modern AOR sound, so everyone shines loud and clear, but of course, Holska blazes through it all no matter how simple, melodic, heavy, or shreddy the guitar work comes into play. His resume is too long to list in a blurb review like this, but it'll only take a song or two for you to realize the true staying power of this album. Give it a proper spin and prepare for some of the most competent music of the genre in 2026. Now we have Locust Noir with Shadow Sun. Straight up, this is going to be my goth album of the year unless somehow something beats this. Ben Demon of one of the most underrated bands of the 21st century, Cybreed, takes a stab at gothic music, and it feels so hauntingly beautiful as it does authentic and painfully accurate. The production feels like modern day with enough classic callbacks to make this more than a nostalgia trip. The songwriting channels everything from Typo Negative to Sisters of Mercy to Middle Era Paradise Lost, making them fall in love with every track and reminding why you love the style with every spin. This is a masterclass of the style of goth in every sense of the genre, and I will be singing its praises till the end of the year and beyond. If you want to hear what is probably going to be the goth album of the year, check out Locust Noir in all its glory. Here we have a band name that I hope I get right, but I feel like I'm gonna mess it up. My Valier with The Past Tales. The debut album from this UK melodeath band has learned what it takes to make the genre work so well over the years, but has upped the ante with the intensity and pure power. The band layers its heaviest moments with instrumentation that would make folk and symphonic metal fans happy, in a blend that showcases that brutal music can have sophistication and importance. It's quite striking to hear bands like Amorphous, Shade of Sorrow, Orbiculture, and even Blind Guardian levels of thematics going on, but this is a band that knows to wear their influences on their sleeve while still innovating for the future. While it might take a little bit to digest, it is more than worth the investment, as this is the kind of melodeath that feels like slow, brooding monster. Its dynamic instrumentations and sheer power will rule over you. Next up is Necrofire with Transcend into Oblivion. The third album from this Houston Mellow Black mainstay is the sheer intensity of the Mellow Black style done with a sophistication and proper style that feels both like the best of the genre, but also something that you would hear in a horror movie that has a ballroom scene set in hell. Featuring past and present members of Oceans of Slumber, Terror Corpse, and the new lineup for Nevermore, the band is filled to the brim with some of the best musicians Houston, Texas has to offer. The production is easily their best, and the songwriting matches it tenfold. It's the most triumphant album to date in their catalog, with 3 songs separated into 3 sections, and each with an instrumental track in between each song. It's quite ambitious, but it also pays off in the best of ways. If you want Rotting Christ meets Necrophobic meets Dissection, with just the slightest glimmers of some more Southern doom, Necrofire is the band that you need to give your proper attention to. Next up is otherwise known as a Wilhelm Scream with Cheap Heat. I'll keep this one short and sweet as the album turned out to be. 10 songs, just under a half hour, and filled to the brim with what makes this Massachusetts band work for over 27 years. From the fast and furious riffs to the more subdued moments, to those moments that'll break open a pit no matter where you are. The production is just what it needs to be for this to be effective, and the songwriting is fun and filled with meaning. It's just great to see that the band's 8th album has not let up in quality or momentum in any way. This is absolute perfection. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting with Among Wolves with Reflections of the End. The debut album from this Utah band combines everything that I love into one sound. You will hear progressive, melodeath, metalcore, power, thrash, and so much more rolled into one package that is not afraid to explore its sound, but also snap back into what their core sound is. No 2 tracks sound alike on this 10-track and hour-long endeavor, but it may be a lot for some, and if you don't like your music adventurous and filled with authenticity, maybe look elsewhere. Among Wolves is a band that is on the cusp of launching into the stratosphere if everything works out in the right ways. And with a sound like this, they deserve that, and then some. Now we got Cold Communion with Monuments to Ruin. Bear Gambling of Daylight Dies and Tim Roland of Silent Vigil have joined forces for one of the best melodic death doom albums of the year, combining everything that makes the genre work, from the tear-jerking riffs to the pain-driven vocals and lyrics, to the overall atmosphere that makes your heart wrench every time. It's all matched up with a stellar production that drives the sorrow-driven power home and makes you remember why bands like Woods of Ypres, Opeth, November's Doom, and Rapture will always be in people's hearts. I can't sell this one much better than that. This is the melodic death doom album of the year for me, and it's going to take a colossal album for it to knock it down. This is a masterclass of the genre in every conceivable way. Now we have Exhumed with Red Asphalt. This might be the most fun Exhumed album to date. Every song deals with being on the open road in some way, shape, or form. The album just hits everything that I've ever loved about the band, but it's done to a new level. With as much love for the classic gore metal sound on display, the band also incorporates much more groove into the sound that makes you want to go full speed ahead on the highway, but brings things back enough to remind you that if you do, you may face your demise in numerous ways. It's 10 tracks and 36.5 minutes of horror-filled love letter to the open road. It's everything that you want it to be and more. Always support Exhumed. Next up is Leatherhead with Violent Horror Stories, or VHS. The sophomore album from this great band is a perfect love letter to the horror genre done through the gaze of classic heavy metal and speed metal. 8 tracks, 37.5 minutes of fast and furious metal, with that 80s flair that makes Flotsam and Jetsam, Hellstar, Vigil Hunter, and Star Force fans happy time and time again. While not reinventing the wheel in any way, they are making some of the most rock-solid speed metal of 2026, and making it feel as evil as it deserves to be. If you want that classic sound, and of course your love of horror, Leatherhead has nailed it perfectly. Next up is Love Bites with Outstanding Power. 5 albums in 9 years from this Japanese band showcasing the pure ferocity that the speed, power, and heavy metal genres can still have, all while making the best music possible in the process. The band has always been fun, and this is no exception. Every track, no matter the tempo, is memorable and worthy of being played live with a raw but human production style, and some of the best musicianship that you're going to hear in this genre, done with an authenticity you simply can't fake. I also gotta add how sick the double bass and guitar fills are on this one. Every time that you hear them, it just makes you smile from ear to ear. The genre is meant to be fun, and no one does it quite like Love Bites anymore. Go check them out. Now we have Silent Deep Ocean with Essence of Existence. The 6th album in 2 years, and no, this is not an AI band, from this duo featuring Gregory Hickey, formerly of Spine Furnace, and Tahina Spazova, one of my favorite funeral doom bands, Destruction of Orion, is back for 2026 with some of the best music of their catalog. Richie does almost everything on the record, both behind and in front of the production board, while Spazova does guitar, clean soprano vocals, and the cover art, giving an atmosphere for the dark, emotional doom metal that is cascaded by hauntingly beautiful vocals to make the music feel even more eerie but intriguing. The production will be hit or miss for a lot of people, but that is common in this style as it is quite raw and it matches the music perfectly because of that. It will also be rough and ambient for some people as this is over an hour and 24 minutes long, so it is quite the trek for some people. But if you enjoy this style, it will knock you over with its power and you won't even notice that almost an hour and a half has gone by. There is so much to love about this one, and if you leave your inhibitions at the door, you will find a treasure of a Doom album with Essence of Existence by Silent Deep Ocean. If you're any kind of Doom fan, do not skip out on this one. And finally today we have SOCOM with Reality Dimension. The debut album from this Italian-turned-German band is a wild combination of both classic, progressive, and melodic death metal, and it sounds like it was unearthed from 1996 recordings right after In Flames recorded Horacle. There's also flourishes of folk and thrash metal thrown in for good measure that ties everything together. It is a modern throwback in the best of ways throughout all 9 tracks and almost 51 minutes of music. If you want a contagious mix of Godiva, Ravenblood, and of course that classic In Flames sound, SOCOM is a band that is more than worthy of your attention. Give them the love that they deserve.